Hello, I'm Toycat and welcome back to the second channel video. So I've always been open to criticism, feedback and corrections on this channel because I don't think that the things I believe to be true or the facts that I might have displayed are 100% flawless and incongruent, never going to be fixed again. No, the truth is I think, opinions are something you should be willing to change if you see compelling evidence. That's what everyone should be ready for, and I think corrections can be really useful because they'll improve my opinion and hopefully anyone reading those comments too. However, most people that leave corrections on the internet, you're probably aware of this, try to leave the most asinine, dull, corrections they can find. Like, for instance, the one that annoys me the most, this comes up so much, is Toycat, you were talking about the electoral system in America, and it's clear you meant that California was the biggest state by electoral votes. However, actually, did you know Alaska's the biggest state, not California, you idiot? And it's like, yes, it's obvious to anyone looking at a map that that's the case, but clearly in some context you're talking about something else. Population or electoral votes in that case, or I was talking about the busiest airports in Europe, and it's like, yo, London's the biggest then, and it's like, no, it's the busiest, and it's like, yes, in the context of this video, it's very, very clear what that means, because biggest doesn't always mean land area. A lot of the time it does, and I feel like, to kind of reverse that trend on its head, to reverse that annoyance on its head, I would talk about the largest airports in the world by land area, because you probably assume that title meant that we're going to be talking about the busiest, but no, we're talking about the largest, which is surprisingly weird of a list. There's one huge thing the top 5 has in common, and we'll be going through them one by one, and maybe you'll spot it by the end. So, with that said, I want to mention that we're measuring these in hectares, so I thought hectares were an imperial unit, but they're actually metric as it turns out, so I'll also be measuring them in freedom units, don't worry, but just keep in mind that the average size of an airport obviously depends on its size and uses, but large airports are considered to be around the 1,000 hectare range, and you can get airports much smaller than that, which is why it's so surprising that the 5th biggest airport in the world, which in case you're curious is Washington Dulles Airport. The 5th biggest airport in the world is Washington Dulles, and it's called that because it's in the small little town of Dulles, although it serves mostly Washington, so Washington Dulles Airport, and this airport is over 4,000 hectares wide. So just quickly in freedom units for you, in case you're like, oh, I don't know hectares, they're imperial. That's about 14.8 million eagles across. It's insane stuff, and yeah, basically it's a very big airport. And looking at it, you can see that actually, yeah, that makes some sense. We've got 4 runways with a really weird angle across from each other, and as well as that, you've got the huge passenger terminals. Yeah, there's a lot of area around here, as well as just area around the runways, which is kind of there for development and other purposes. So yeah, Washington Dulles, the 5th biggest airport in the world, but it's not even, like Washington's only and primary airport. In fact, most politicians don't even fly out there. Fun little fact is there's a second one, but it is worth noting, this airport is a really interesting one because it was made so big, and it was like, okay, we've got this huge airport now, what do we do with it? And, they always had the plan of, developing it more later, because they developed something called, the people-moving buses. They look like trains jacked up onto wheels. It's a crazy futuristic idea, what if we had mobile passenger lounges so you could wait for your plane while going to your plane? But then the jet bridge was invented, and it's like, now we've kind of ruined that. You might know that whole story if you watch Hello Internet. There we go. Fun little fun fact plug thing right there. But yeah, so that's the story of Washington Dulles, basically. It's an airport that was going to be the future, and then it wasn't the future, and now it's the exact opposite of the future. Very unpleasant on the inside. However, the one, nice little benefit is there is a Five Guys inside the airport, which is a very rare thing, especially in the UK, but there's one inside Washington Dulles. So, downsides, it's a terrible airport that's sad with low ceilings, and is very overcrowded, and, is quite far out of the city. Pros, has a Five Guys. I think that's that's kind of your list of pros and cons you got right there. But that is Washington Dulles. I just want to mention before we move on that there is actually 2 airports in Washington. The second one, the one most politicians use, is actually called Washington National. It's called the Washington National Airport, or Ronald Reagan, as it's just usually referred to when you buy flights in an outfit. And the thing I find interesting about this airport being called Ronald Reagan is, one, it's significantly smaller than the other one. It's actually the airport I flew out of myself when I flew from DC to Chicago last year, or 2 years ago. But the other interesting thing about it is the fact that they took the most democratic part of the country, which is Washington, DC. They don't have representation in a lot of different ways. It's a whole problem if you're American, I'm sure you're aware of. And they took the most democratic part of the country and decided, their airport needs to be named after the most famous Republican president of the last 100 years. Yeah, that's a good spit right there. And I don't know, it's just a interesting little thing. It just seems like a weird match. Like if you took, I don't know, Roosevelt, and you're like, let's name Texas's airports after that. But they decided to do it here, and I guess that was a potentially brave decision. But it's not as brave a decision as the next airport, if you decide to go here, because Orlando International Airport is found, okay, this is going to shock you, in Orlando. So Orlando is a little bit bigger than Washington Dulles. You'll see, again, even though the average airport is like a fifth of this size, they just go up and up and up and up in crazy ways. And looking at the footprint of Orlando International Airport, it's not hard to see why it takes up so much space. So yeah, Orlando International Airport, the fun fact about it, first of all, is its airport code is MCO. And again, it always throws me off because I'm thinking like, is that Muscat? Is that Moscow? Or, you know, like what city is that? Because, you know, a lot of cities have very clear codes, like Dallas-Fort Worth is DFW, but Orlando International is MCO, and the reason for that is because they built it on the site of an old airbase, and they just kept the old name, which was like McCoy Air Base. So MCO, or Orlando International Airport, now you know why Florida's biggest airport has such a weird airport code. There we go, fun fact to look at right there. So yeah, this is actually a really, really weirdly designed airport though, you know, not just because they decided to build the future moving peopleways, that's only that one airport ever, but because of, look at the way the terminal's laid out. So you go into it from two different ways, from the north and from the south, and then from the airport you take different like kind of people movers to these weird T-shaped terminals. At one point this was seen as like the best way to like have planes be arranged around a thing, and I'm sure at one point that was a very smart idea. In the modern age, it's, again, circles are generally a better design than weird triangle, rectangle, whatever you want to call these things. So yeah, it's a very weird and arguably inefficient design, but it does lead to one of the more visually satisfying airports to look at from the sky, because it's like, oh yeah, 2 runways each side, 2 terminals each side, easy as that, we sorted it. And yeah, it's kind of weird that you can, like, obviously there's a taxiway, which sometimes will take a plane over the motorway, which means you can even see, again, some airports have this, I know it's not too uncommon, but it's still weird if you've never seen it before that like, oh yeah, you just kind of go underneath the runway at a certain stretch, and it's like, that's just a thing that you do. I think here's the exact point. It's just a thing that happens. You see planes going over as you go to and from the airport. That's Orlando right there. So yeah, the reason this airport is so busy, because it's both big and busy, unlike most of the airports, which are kind of busy and very big, is because of the fact that Disneyland is found just over on the east here. So yeah, here's Disneyland, which, another fun fact about that is that it is its own like incorporated area. It's not part of any city, and it had like a whole bunch of tax incentives. They have their own fire department, I want to say. It's the Disney World, I believe, is actually what it's one of the weirdest things, I would say, when it comes to America, and like, oh, it's easy to exploit the US government. All you need to do is have some money and a mouse, apparently. So yeah, same with copyright reform, am I right? So yeah, Orlando International Airport, MCO, pretty big, you know, but it's only number 4 on the list, so you know the next one's going to be bigger. What could be bigger than that? Well, you know how I said DFW earlier? That's right, Dallas-Fort Worth Airport. So I like DFW because their 3-letter code, it matches what it is. You hear DFW, you're like, ah, Dallas-Fort Worth, of course, which, so it serves the Dallas-Fort Worth metropolitan area. If you are curious, they were 2 cities originally, but over time they've expanded, and they've become the largest metropolitan area outside of the 2 coasts, which, that's a very pleasant way of saying the 3rd largest overall. If you exclude New York on the one coast and LA on the other coast, it's the 3rd largest after that. It's a huge metropolis in Texas, and not even their only metropolitan area, unlike other states. It's a huge area, and right in the middle of it, there's the airport. It's actually, surprisingly enough, despite you know, being America and it being the South, because of the high population density, it's well connected by public transport, and despite the fact that, you know, land values here are pretty high right now, it is the 3rd biggest airport in the world, with one of the weirder designs I've seen in quite some time. Like, look at this, there's like 2 slightly diagonal runways, then there's like a big mess of runways through the center. Basically, you never have to worry about the runway situation, and you also don't have to worry about the terminal situation, because again, look at this, they worked out that you can go circular on them, so they got more space. So yeah, Dallas has 5 terminals, which is more than the average, I want to say, at least for non-American airports, and only one of those is international, which is D, which is also a square terminal. So yeah, looking at this, you can see, surprisingly, by the way, all the way down to like the fin of like a, I think that's a Qantas plane, right? You can see so much detail by just zooming in on the Google Maps thing, and you can see just how big the airport is when you do that. That's a very, very big wide-body plane, and then this is the size of the airport compared to it. So big airport, big terminals, big everything, and it's actually one of the things that, like, it's still on my, like, I'd love to go there list, because, again, I really want to check out Texas sometime, and Dallas-Fort Worth is not the busiest in Texas, but it is the biggest in the entire Texas area, and by extension, the South of America, but it's not the biggest airport in this country. Are you seeing the trend yet, by the way? Because Denver International Airport is one of my favorite confusing airports in the world. So, I have a personal story about this that you can see as we zoom out on the swastika-shaped airport. So, first of all, I guess actually we'll talk about the city limits thing. So if we go back to the map view. So Denver is one of the weirdly shaped cities because it's a nice, roundish rectangle with a few innies and outies, and then it just has the road going all the way to the airport, and then the airport belongs then to it. It's a huge development ground, and again, it's a bit of a weird, orientation, although having all 4 directions is a good thing, because it means planes can land in any winds from any directions. It's a weird airport because it's one of the first ones that I went inside that has tornado shelters. It's like, so gate B27 is just over there, and then also, if you go a little bit further, you'll find the tornado shelter in case there's emergency. Go there now, run! And it's like, what is... So that was the first time I've ever seen that. I think it's a common thing in some middle US airports, but it was a little bit of a weird thing to find at first, and it's just a huge airport area. In fact, the airport is so big, even by US standards, both in terms of busyness and in terms of what's going on there, that people are suspicious of the airport. There are so many conspiracy theories about this airport, about like underground, that's where they keep the aliens, about like, oh, well, I mean, it's clearly way too big and there's some satanic imagery, and there's just so many weird things about this airport. All of it is conspiracy theories. Something about this airport drives so many conspiracy theories, which is cool that, like, this airport's so big, we have conspiracies going on about us, but it has actually led to a weird situation. So my personal Denver International Airport story, I was flying from Heathrow to Denver. I just picked up a cheap flight a few years ago. It was like my first or second time going to America, and I was like, yeah, I'm excited for this, or maybe third or something. I don't know. I was going to America, I was like, ooh, Colorado, that's one of the fun states. Looking forward to this. But yeah, so in the airport terminal at Heathrow, I just saw a guy, and he looked like the largest, most confusing, crazy priest I've ever seen. And I was like, okay, that's normal. I locked eyes with him for a few seconds, then walked on, thinking, okay, weird airport meet. And then on the other side, 10 hours later after the flight or whatever, I get off, and just behind me at passport control, it's this same guy again. And he is not pleasant to me. Like, I answer a girl's question, and he's like, of course you'd know that. And it's like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm British. Is that not okay for me to know things about, the ESTA program to enter America? And the guy is like super hostile towards me, and it's like, what is this, man? What is this? And then like a little bit later, he asked something, and I answer it, and he's like, you CIA agents, you know everything, don't you? And it's like, what is any of this? But then afterwards, he's just like, oh, sorry, man, I thought you were one of them, one of them. And it's like, you are a priest, clearly. Like, he clearly owns a thing. He's going to London for some reason, which means he's a wealthy priest too. I just had so many questions about, what is this? How is a priest involved with conspiracy theories? Why is a priest scared of the CIA? There's just so many questions about America that can't be answered. But one of the ones that can be is Denver International Airport has a lot of conspiracy theories. However, the last airport in the world. So Denver Airport is a really surprising one to me that it ended up being such a big hub for passenger traffic, because obviously it's like a big airport surrounded by not very much else, so it kind of makes sense that it'd be kind of big, but it's actually got some of the most destinations in the US. It's a very, I think it might be the most destinations in the US, very, very visited airport for a city which is comparatively not very big. But the last airport here is one of those like, okay, this is why biggest really doesn't matter. So the biggest airport in the world, according to the Guinness Book of World Records, high quality source we'll get into later, is Dammam's Airport, which is also known as the King Fahd International Airport. So just looking on a map, you can begin to see why this is such a big airport. I mean, look at the area around it. And yeah, in hectares, this is like 8 times the size of Denver, and it's like, well, that's the biggest airport. The Guinness Book of Records says so, and so do a lot of top 5 lists you'll find on the internet. But again, here's the crazy thing about this one. Any professional in any field will be very let's say, cautious of the Book of Records. They won't have good things to say. In my particular case, in the gaming place, it's like, oh yeah, so they did a lot of deals where they made world records for things that would be easily beaten, and then just don't accept competition for them. It's a really, really bizarre thing where, like, they want to have a mixture of celebrities in there to sell more books, because they're a commercial organization. That's what they do. It's not really an organization about setting world records. It's about trying to come up with cool facts. They're a fun fact place, which is cool, but this, like, this isn't called the Toycat World Record Channel. It's Toycat Fun Facts talking about airports all day. But they claim to be world records, which is why it's weird that they say it's the largest airport in the world, despite, I mean, it's big if you count this. But here's the thing, even the airport of the website, so this is King Fahad's International Airport, the website, this is their real website. Look at this thing, by the way. This is a beauty in itself. Like, look at this. Seriously, spend some time and appreciate. This is an airport in Saudi Arabia. It's like the third biggest by passenger volume, and the biggest according to the Guinness Book of World Records. This is their website. It's got a flying bird up there. Why? I mean, what? What? Like, whatever. So, really, really weird airport. It's in English, so you can read it all. But yeah, here's the thing about the airport. Even they, themselves, they have all the reasons to be like, yeah, we're the biggest in the world. They're like, airport area, 3,675 hectares, which is big, still puts it in the top 5 somewhere, but it's the total area that Guinness Book of World Records use, despite the fact that it's like, this is how much is developed. This is how much is developed right now. At some point, it clearly will expand because, you know, Dammam is it's the third biggest city in Saudi Arabia. It's one of the fastest growing in the entire Middle East. There's, you know, like Saudi Arabia is opening up to the world, so this could logically kind of make some sense. But it's like, I mean, when the website itself contradicts the Book of World Records, it's another reason to be cautious of those. So yeah, don't buy those books. Is my recommendation. And I would like to see some actual world record organization that makes more sense. But Guinness rant aside, let's rant about advertising, because I've always worked in advertising. I've said this before, I'll say it again, and I think targeted advertisements are a good thing. I know on the internet people are like, no, I've got to keep people away from my stuff, and I guess I get why. Like, if you want to be cautious, that's fine, but I think targeted ads are a good thing. Obviously, there are privacy things that should be met, but when, in general, an ad that is targeted to you can be a good thing. It can be a mutually beneficial relationship. That's what I always strove for when I was doing advertising 10 years ago, and it's something that I think is kind of cool today. But on this website, not on any others, but just on the King Fahd International Airport website, which, you know, side note, looks terrible. Look at the ads I've got. First of all, it's booking.com telling me to stay in the Eiffel Tower in Paris, which I don't think there are any apartments in there, but okay, that's a normal ad. Targeted, I do travel. Then we've got an ad for a DC to DC isolated regulated converter with 93% peak efficiency. I'm not sure who this ad is for. Who is like, yeah, let's check out that Vicor evaluation. It's like, what is going on there? And then finally, this one upset me the most, is Brits don't see it coming. Britain is to be doomed. Brexit wasn't all it seemed. You won't like what's contained in this leaked report. And it's like, oh my god, this is not okay. This whole website. Because look at the departures board, by the way. This is their genuine departures board for when you want to know when your flight is. It's like, oh, it looks like Air France flight to Riyadh has landed right now. You can check that. It's like, what is this entire thing? It's weird, and their ads are just as bad too. In this case, IT help desk software. So I guess that's at least targeted. But yeah, I don't know. Britain is going to be doomed by Brexit, and all I can do is talk about airports and say that, yeah, Dammam's airport. It's a bit of a... it's a bit of a rip-off, and in general, I think the whole world record thing, I think the point of having the biggest by land area doesn't make too much sense, because in the Middle East, look, the area around it, if it wanted to be 10 times the size, it's all undeveloped land. In the Middle East, they can't use all their land, so saying it's part of the airport is easy to do, whereas in, say, Dallas, Fort Worth, a much more utilized, very visited airport, you know, like, it's surrounded by developments because the land is valuable. They can't just pretend to expand there. So I think that the point of having a large territory, airport, anything, is usually quite pointless. Obviously, size is one of the parts of the equation that matters. One of the things that makes the United States rich and well-defended is its size, you know, relative to that whole thing. But the bigger thing is the fact that it has the world's largest economy. You know, the things that make, you know, London the biggest city in the UK is not just its physical size, it's the amount of people who live there, the amount of people who want to move there, the amount of, like, output that is generated, and the fact that people don't get that in 2018, that's a rant, and I don't know how I turned this into a... I kind of made it an anti-rant by talking about the opposite, actually going through land areas, but yeah, the most interesting airports in America aren't in order, you know, Dulles, you know, Orlando, and then Dallas, Fort Worth, and Denver. There's a lot of interesting things to say about all those airports, but there's more interesting airports that just aren't big. And I don't think big should be a criteria, because size does not equal what you think it. You know, a lot of people, this is a big debate in America too, as to, like, you know, should land area be what determines, you know, like, electoral districts? And it's like, not if you want democracy, representative democracy, no, unless you want to represent land. But anyway, it's a huge debate people have in America, and they've still decided year after year after year that actually, yeah, land area is more important than population. And it's like, yeah. As a British person, I personally don't get it. I obviously understand culture difference, but land area does not equal influence in any sense of the word, or Sweden would be the most influential European country, or Russia would be the most influential country in the world, and formerly the USSR. But we all know that those things aren't true. Or maybe you don't know. Maybe you're disagreeing right now, like, oh, I have a really big house, Toy Cat, and therefore I like land. And it's like, okay, thank you for watching this video. I hope you all enjoyed it. And I guess I'll see you all in another one whenever that happens. I was actually going to do a trip report of the thing from London to Turin I recently did, but like my bag was stolen, so it's like it's a bit more of a down one. Still might upload it. And then also, if you like the flying videos, I'm doing one more flight this year, and it's going to actually, hopefully, if it all posts, it's going to be to get One World Emerald status, so it's like talking about status maybe. Do you want to hear about airline status? Let me know. Do you not want to hear about airline status? Don't let me know, because it'll make me sad and less likely to see the video. Okay, thank you very much for watching. Second channel, don't care. Bye.